whether the endpoint has suspended the layers or not, to help us with debugging. I think overall it's working well, and it shouldn't be too long before we can roll that out on Jitsi.
Right, and we might in the future also look into extending layer suspension to do not only highest quality layer, but also just all video. That's also something we could do, just FYI. We got live streaming started, so just to repeat there's an upcoming release of mobile coming with a bunch of new functionalities, such as lobby room, YouTube sharing, and others. And I also talked about how we are preparing a solution to the resource sync problem of recorders and live streamers, Jibris, if you say that in Jitsi speak. So we would introduce a queue that would allow people who need to use that to get in a queue and wait for their turn, rather than just getting a frustrating error. So hopefully that, while not a full solution, would be a little bit more usable. Hristo, I think we're getting fairly close there, right, to the queue delivery?
Yeah. So actually, I'm pretty close to finishing the web part of it. So the libjitsi meet part should be almost ready, and then I'm gonna start working on the mobile part as well. Maybe Jacob or Aaron can give a little bit of update on the let's say server side of the queues.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Jacob's here, but anyone else from the team?
Yeah, so we have some more improvements we need to make on the prosody side for the module that'll do the pass-through to this service and sort of help manage the queue from the user perspective. And then we have some more improvements to be made to that Jibri queue service itself, the server side, as Hristo was alluding to. But it's all in progress.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, we also have an ongoing track of trying to suss out possible performance optimizations. Jay and Pavel are looking at things around that. It's a challenging topic, which is why I suspect they've been shying away from the spotlight. So that is probably enough of a team update. I'm going to open the microphone for questions and comments from the floor.
Hi, this is Ben. I have a quick question.
Hi, Ben.
One is, would you be able to open source the G Suite add-on? So that's one question. The other one is, I see that there's a recommended approach to use. I think I already commented on the community board about having a dedicated prosody for the Jacovo JVB, and then have another prosody for sort of web client connections. That is not yet in Docker Jitsi Meet, so I'm wondering if you could sort of share the configuration for that, for those sort of two prosodies and how they differ maybe. And the other question was, and a third question is about ICE reconnect failure. So ICE failure reconnection, that there is a flag in the Jitsi Meet, and I'm wondering, there is a comment about that it affects Octo and that it also affects TCC. What is sort of your opinion on the pros and cons against enabling that?
That's a lot of questions. Pavel, do you want to start with the last one?
So basically, can you hear me?
Yes.
The issue is that ICE restart we used to have is not a real ICE restart, and it was basically reusing existing peer connection instance, but for the bridge it was new session. So the client would keep the state about the streams and the bridge would start from scratch. So that was messing a bunch of things there, and we disabled this until we have a realized restart and implemented on the bridge. That was the reasoning behind it.
So for now, it sounds like it's not recommended using it until there is further work being done, right?
Yes. Although I'm adding a new flow right now, which recreates the peer connection completely, because we need it for insertable streams, which are causing audio performance issue if the main JavaScript is loaded. So we're basically going to delay enabling insertable stream flags until the end-to-end encryption is actually enabled. And I was just thinking about reusing the same flow for the ICE restart until we have the real ICE restart on the bridge, because that would be fresh peer connection on the client and also fresh state on the bridge, so it should do the trick there. It's
great.
work in progress. There's a PR open right now.
Okay, fantastic.
About the add-on for the G Suite, it's on my plate. I will try to squeeze it this week and open source it.
And about the documentation for second prosody, I think someone was asking on the commit directly, and I only replied. I actually pasted the sample config there. It's really kind of simple. You only need 7 different ports to avoid conflicts. Yeah, maybe I can try copy this documentation somewhere.
Okay, great. And the second prosody is now the considered best practice to set up Jitsi, is that correct?
I think if you want to run it in a really big scale, that would be the way to go, yes.
But really big scale, to be clear, we're talking about potentially, I think we were seeing it barf at around 10,000 connections simultaneously. Was it something like that, Pavel? Do you remember?
I think we had more than that. I don't remember exactly. But
Right,
yeah.
and it also had to do with how many bridges we had. So it was like how many user participants plus how many bridges. So it was sort of a combination of scale of both users and bridges.
Right, and I think it was, we were doing at least 50 bridges, and we had 10,000 and potentially more connections. So you, on a single machine, right, on a single shard. So I don't know if other people on the team would share that opinion, but I personally wouldn't bother with the added complexity there, and unless you really know you're hitting that scale.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Hi, this is Paul. How's it going?
Hi, Paul.
Hi. So I have a question just about Opus in-band FEC. I was talking to somebody and they said that a long time ago, the behavior with Jitsi Video Bridge was when it came to packet loss, it wasn't always relaying sort of the worst case scenario to everybody. In other words, if there was no packet loss between JVB and a given client, that even though one out of 10 people in a meeting was experiencing significant packet loss, then FEC, in-band FEC for Opus was not enabled. Even if it was signaled, it was sort of, I guess it's sort of dynamic based on packet loss. Is that still the case?
Yes.
It is, okay. So would it
be? The RTCP termination is hop by hop in the bridge right now. We have, however, started working on breadth recently. or rather, we've added it to our immediate to-do list. The patches that we worked with people to put in Chrome have landed, but like everyone on the team is currently finishing something, and as soon as someone frees up, they'll take up adding support for red on the bridge, which will mean that that will give you the sort of termination that you're looking for. That essentially the bridge will add the redundancy for the legs that require it.
But that's for out of band FEC or for in band FEC?
It's for redundancy, so I suppose you'd consider it out of band.
Okay, but okay, that's great. But when
we're talking about audio, right?
Yeah, for audio.
Right.
But for the in band FEC, would that automatic? Like, I feel I saw somewhere in the code that was something that basically tricks the client to thinking there's always some level of packet loss.
But what would be the point once you have red?
Yeah, I guess yeah. Once we have red, how soon is red coming?
Well, as I said, it's the minimum set of patches have landed in Chrome and have been merged. There's a few left out there that FIPO is working on finalizing, and support in the bridge is going to, I don't know, it's a matter, I would say 3 to 5 weeks maybe. Okay. This is just off the top of my head, so don't take any, don't attach too much credibility there.
Okay, so this is Philip Henke's red merge request to Chrome. Is that the?
Yes, it's a bunch of them actually. I think it's more than 10 total.
Oh, really?
A bunch of them have been closed, and there's a bunch of them left. But the minimum set of work that lets you test that out with debugging has already landed, and now what's left is the possibility to turn it on and off with offer answer, for example.
That's great. But then we have to wait a while to get that Chrome version, I guess, to come out, right?
Sure. You have to wait a while to get it in the bridge anyway, right? So yeah. And it looks like it might coincide, sort of.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Sure, Paul. I was muted. I was asking, are there any other questions?
Yes. This is
if there aren't any other questions, I had a small question.
Someone just started asking something actually before you, okay?
Okay, sorry. I'll be quiet.
I have a question. Can someone explain a little bit more on the on mobile? There was a mention about I guess a performance like an enhancement when it comes to video audio quality that's coming up.
No, I was saying that we're attempting a bunch of things right now. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but we're attempting a bunch of things. Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, I can add here. So what Saul meant is that we lowered default sender resolution, or actually both, to 360p from 720. That was one of the changes Saul mentioned. Did you mean that or something else?
I think that's it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
This is Bipin from India.
I think Hagai was first on the queue. So if you don't mind just waiting for him to ask the question, because he started just a minute ago. Hagai, would you like to go ahead? Okay.
Sorry, I think my phone is a bit slow. I'm not sure. I just wanted to ask, I noticed that there's no place to see the incoming calls you can phone with a regular number into a conference call. Is that only on the app that you don't have that, or is it taken off the computer as well, off the browser on the web on the computer, because I didn't find it from the browser on the phone either, but maybe I just didn't look enough.
Wait, sorry, you're not able to see what?
It should be under invite people, and then you'll get
So it's
the
under
dial-in
invite.
number, and then you'll also get an option for more numbers if you need more numbers than just the default one.
Okay, so but it's under the invite, and on the phone it's not under the invite, if I understand correctly, because I pressed on the invite on the phone, it just gave me a link.
Well, on the phone, when you click on the link, you see all the numbers.
Okay, I didn't.
Right, that's the default page that you see is the numbers page.
Okay, I'll check it out. Sorry,
Yeah.
Thanks.
No worries. Sorry, who started asking their question? Bipin, go ahead, man.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I really want to thank the Jitsi community for helping me. I have
that's
installed
very
this
kind of
server
you.
in my organization, and I'm very grateful to the community. The community always solves the question answers whenever I ask them. Thanks a lot.
That's very
All the
kind
best
of
to
you
the
to say.
team.
Thank you. Oh, that was it? Wow, this was awesome. Thank you. This is great. I think we can end the call now because. Okay, so there's a desktop share, which appears to be a question. Behind one NAT, the Jitsi Meet is okay. How to make communication between multiple NAT without internet, no public network are allowed. So, well, essentially what you have to make sure is that the bridge is IP accessible from every place where you want it to work, right? No, that's kind of, the turn server is kind of orthogonal, and it will have the same requirements, essentially. You're going to have to make sure that the turn server, if you're using one just as the bridge, is at a place where it's IP accessible from every place on the network. Once you have infrastructure at such a place, it's kind of at the same level as your top NAT or whatever fits, then it doesn't matter if you have a turn server or not, right? You can even do it with the bridge. In the case of Jitsi conversations, turn servers solve different problems. They enable you to take communication off of the bridge, and in certain cases, they enable you to get through UDP restricted scenarios. They don't really solve a NAT problem in our infrastructure. Hope this makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with Amir. So basically, you just put the GTs on the top net.
What we're talking, if does that answer your question? If it does, then would you mind unsharing so that we continue? Any other questions?
I have one more question. This is Paul again. Just one question. I think I asked this last time. I think I asked two questions at the same time. I got lost. In the Jitsi Media Transform configuration settings, like we're working on just kind of trying to tune bandwidth estimation, trying to optimize for slightly lower bandwidth situations. I'm wondering if adjusting the queue size if that's advisable at all, if that could be used to potentially either like reduce latency or increase latency at the expense of better, more resilient. Has anybody played with the Chrome playout delay flag, which
So the queues in JMT are basically, you would want those. I mean, we have threads that are constantly prioritized to read from those queues. So you wouldn't want to make those any longer than you had to. And the only time, hopefully, we'd see those filling up at all would be, you know, as the bridge is either has a burst of, say, a bunch of load, maybe a bunch of people join at once or something, and there's something like that, like, and that might burst up a little bit and then hopefully gets drained. So you wouldn't want everyone to make that. There's not going to be a lot of win to make that shorter, because all you're going to do is basically say, well, but what that trade-off is basically saying was, when things get really busy, I'd rather drop packets rather than get bogged down and catch up. And at that point, you're probably already, that's not a place you want to be anyways. So, and increasing them isn't necessarily going to increase latency and give you some other trade-off benefit, because it's probably, if all's going well, it's not going to get that, the queue's not going to get any fuller anyway. So that's probably not a place where you'd necessarily want to tune. That's more tuned kind of based on other things than I think what you're talking about, from what I can hear.
But is there a place that would make sense as a way to sort of dynamically adjust the jitter buffer size?
There isn't, because we don't do, well, like, our whole goal is to basically get everything in and out as absolutely quickly as possible. So we don't do any buffering or any queuing intentionally. Everything is just basically, every queue you see on the bridge, from what I can remember, maybe there's an exception, is basically there to support if there's some big burst and give us some time to catch up. But we're not intentionally really slowing anything down. I guess there's, I don't think there's anywhere. I was thinking maybe there's something in the video frame stuff where we're waiting for complete frames, but yeah, Jonathan.
Not anymore. I fixed that.
Yeah,
there used to be. But.
So we're trying to get everything through as absolutely quickly as possible. So we're not we're not holding anything up anywhere.
What about the time for RTX? Like, is there anything that can be tuned there to try to allow?
To allow what?
Just like a little more leeway in the, obviously at the expense of latency, which is not ideal, but.
So, yes, okay. So there is a cache that we have on the outgoing side, which is basically how many packets do we hold on to? And technically this should be tuned based on the RTT between us and the receiver and what the packet rate is. I don't think we've got that advanced with it. I think we basically just set it to some size. And if that were bigger, then if a NAC comes in from the receiver, it would be more likely we would hold on to that packet for longer and it could retransmit it. The trade-off would be we're using extra memory, because we're basically storing extra copies of those packets of memory. But you could change that, and that would basically say it's more likely for us to retransmit a packet than the NAC have to be sent all the way back to the sender if there was a higher latency between the bridge and the receiver.
I see.
Yeah, but I don't think that will particularly cause anything. Changing that will particularly cause the increase, change the latency of the whole system. It's more just mostly how much memory the bridge uses.
I see.
Yeah, it could affect the perception of latency for that receiver if that receiver basically is waiting longer to play out a video frame. So in a way, it could affect latency there. But
what is the actual goal you're trying to trade off?
Well, if the RTT gets to be, latency kind of goes up, I'm trying to optimize the likelihood that a resend will be useful. I wonder if, like, when NACs are sent, like, there's the time back and forth to resend some of the missing packets, it just ends up timing out before we can actually use the packets, which
I see.
sort of,
yeah.
And is this audio you're thinking mainly about?
Yeah,
I'm more concerned about audio, but I mean, it would.
Yeah, we don't do retransmissions for audio at all. It's just for video.
Just for video.
Yeah.
But for video, okay.
Yeah, it's possible that some of for audio, I think, if you're worried about latency, I think, and potentially packet loss, I think some of the the red work that Pippo is doing might end up being useful for you. So keep an eye on that.
Yeah, the red would be better overall because then you don't even need RTX, right? I guess ostensibly you'd be able to decrease latency overall, ideally.
Right. Yeah, at some cost of bandwidth.
Yeah, but it should be low given that it's audio. But would this apply to video?
No, video will still be doing. We're not planning on adding red to video.
I mean, sorry, I mean on the RTX side, like.
Oh yeah, the RTX. Yeah. Oh, sorry, but yeah, if you have high latencies, we still will use RTX, and I believe I'm not exactly sure how Chrome's implementation works, but I believe it will still use those the retransmitted packets and catch up effectively, but obviously it might end up sort of with somewhat stuttery video in that case. So
right.
There's things architecturally it's possible to do to add FEC, but I don't think we currently support any of that in the bridge.
Right. Yeah, I guess it should be supported in Chrome, right? It's just we would need to add that.
Yeah, the bridge. I don't think the bridge has any FEC support at the moment. I mean,
got it. Okay. There was FEC support in the old bridge, right? Like, so would it be possible to port some of that old code if it was there? I think it was there.
We had some implementation. They did an implementation of the FlexFEC stuff a while back, but I think we only supported receiving it. I don't know if we ever got to sending it, and Chrome's not. And even then, that was a field trial. I don't even know that ever got promoted.
Oh, really?
Field trial. Because I haven't heard anything about it in years. So I think that was kind of, I don't know. My impression is that kind of got ditched in favor of some other solutions, but I don't know the details of why or.
Okay. Just curious, yeah, because if I do think having FEC audio and video, audio would be more important. I think would be a really big. I think it would make a pretty marked difference to kind of making things a little more bandwidth resilient. So yeah, if that might be something we could look to help on down the road. Cool. All right. Well, I really appreciate the updates on that. One tiny less sort of correlated to this is in terms of is there a notification in terms of connection quality related to if the upload bandwidth is falling below sort of the Google min bit rate, which triggers like a suspend of sending, or conversely receiving, like something that differentiates the two?
No, I don't think they give anything there, which is part of the reason why detecting when simulcast layers go away is such a pain, because the client, Chrome doesn't give any indication. You just kind of have to figure it out.
Right. So what's the best way of doing this? Should we just be monitoring WebRTC stats? Like,
yeah, something on the client side. I don't know. Like you're talking about monitoring in the stats and then pushing your own custom client message.
Yeah.
I don't know. Jaya, I feel like we were talking about this recently, but I can't remember specifically. It's probably, I don't remember. I don't know if there's something. Jaya might.
Yeah, I mean, right now we don't have a way, but if you were actually implementing the promise-based get stats, then you can see what streams are sent.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, so in the recent versions of Chrome, we do have the stats for the simulcast streams, and yeah, you could get that information from there.
Great, thank you. That's really helpful.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to say thanks. It's really cool from the phone. It's amazing. I just phoned in. I heard 20 minutes, and it was amazing. The quality was better, and yeah, great. So
well, the quality was better than what you get here?
Than what I get, not from the computer. No, from the computer it's much better, but from what I get from the internet on my phone. When I phone in when a regular call, it's much, much better. So that's just amazing.
Good to hear that. All right. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Okay,
all right.
Bye.
So
have a nice evening, everyone.
Have a nice evening. Before everyone goes away, I just wanted to say that speaking of this, there's been a nice post from Chad and Vox Implant about how to do your integrations with PSTN in an easy way. And also, we are launching currently usage of Jitsi as a platform on Meet Jitsi and 8x8 VC. So if anyone is interested in that, feel free to ping us at vpaas@8x8.com. It's a thing that shows up after sometimes after calls. So you might have seen it already. So if you're looking to run your own video infrastructure with Jitsi, we might be able to do it for you. All right, you all have a wonderful week, and see you again in 15 days. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.